If you're seeing this, it means the experiment worked. Black Friday deals are the worst. You spend all year fantasizing about some exorbitantly priced product, software plugin, and then the entire industry decides to put their stuff on sale in the same period, and you have to pick and choose between these things you've been dreaming about. So I wanted to offer something to the community that didn't require any cost, and people who can afford to buy things can take advantage of, and those who can't can also have a bit of fun with. And that's where Blackbox comes in.
What's in the box?
Not until you give me the
What's in
gun.
the fucking box?
Blackbox is a pretty simple instrument. Well, simple in theory. Everything I've designed up until this point has very complex interfaces. There's a lot of controls, you have a lot of flexibility in shaping things, but I wanted to, as I've been saying, give chance a chance. So this one is very simple to use. However, the output is very unpredictable and can get kind of crazy. So we'll take a look at the interface. I'll show you a little bit of what's under the hood, and hopefully you can incorporate Blackbox for whatever your needs are, be it sound design or more tonally based stuff. All right, so here she is, Blackbox. As you can see, the interface is ridiculously straightforward and simple. There's the big red button which says do not press, which you actually have to press if you want anything to happen. The black box in the middle, which is controlled either by mousing up or mousing down, or it's tied to the mod wheel if you have a MIDI controller with a mod wheel, which hopefully most people do. And then an envelope control, which will have diminishing returns depending on which sound source you're using. And speaking of those sound sources, there are 33 different sample groups. Each one is a different sound source, a different instrument. Some of them are vintage synth samples that I've created. Some of them are string players doing gestures and things. Some of them are electrical interference that I've recorded for sound design stuff. It's a very broad and diverse mix of things, which is why this instrument can be kind of unpredictable. However, you can get some really surprising and interesting things, and every time you hit that big red button, it automatically selects at random one of those sample groups and randomly bypasses or engages effects within a chain that I've built, which create a particular type of effect. So when you first load it up, it looks like this. It sounds like a string sample, if I had to guess. The way this generally works is as you mouse up or move your mod wheel to the upper range, the effects have more of an impact on the sound source. So at the low end, you're hearing mostly just the sample in isolation, but as we increase the mod wheel, you start to hear the effects chain take over. And so every time we hit this big red button, we get loaded with a new sample set. And the color of the illumination inside the box will change, just to let you know that you actually did something. You do have envelope control if you want to play around with this, but the sound sources are so varied and unpredictable that often, unless it's like an impulse that has a really short attack time that you want to soften a little bit, I don't really play around with the envelope too much, but it is there. Every time you hit the big red button, you're selecting a new sample set at random, and then the effects chain is being randomly arranged, and the settings are being randomized as well. So every time you hit that button, the whole thing is going to change. Oh, finally, we got a tonal something or other. Anyway, you get the idea. This is like literally could sit here and do this for hours. I will say, once you find a sound that you like, make sure to save it as a Kontakt preset, because if you do not, you will lose that sound and you will never hear it again, most likely. To do that, just go under File, save as, and then make sure you're saving it as a patch. You don't want to resave the whole instrument every time. Just want to show you quickly what's under the hood so that you can control this more if you want to, although a lot of the fun is just seeing what you get out of it. So if you hit the spanner, here's all the sample groups. They're labeled so you know what they are. If you find one you particularly like, you can solo it. The effects chain has a bunch of processors or modules in it that each time you hit the big red button are randomly either enabled or bypassed. So some of these are more degrading to the sound source than others. The bit crushing lo-fi effect can cause the thing to break up entirely and be inaudible at times. So if you find something and you're exaggerating it with the use of the black box with your mod wheel or your mouse, and you like it, but at a certain point it breaks up and disappears, you can always pop in the back end and try bypassing one of these effects one at a time, and usually that will solve the problem. If you're interested in loading your own samples into Blackbox, you can do that, although I would probably recommend utilizing the existing sample groups. So like going into one of these and just deleting the samples that are mapped in there and loading your own. And you can do that for any number of groups. The reason being is that the random selection of a group each time you hit the red button is based on the total number of sample groups that are available inside the instrument. So if you start adding groups, the function won't work with any new groups unless you go into the script and change some numbers around, which I did leave some notes in the script if you really want to do that. But honestly, if you want to use your own material and run it through the process of Blackbox, I would say just use the existing sample groups and call it a day. So that's Blackbox. Download links are below in the description. I'm going to try to keep this pacing of releasing one instrument a month as long as I can, work and life allowing, obviously. But I like that pace. It seems to be a good way to kind of keep building my Kontakt development skills step by step and making sure it remains ever present. I do have something in the works for this month. It's a very festive, keyboardy kind of instrument, so keep an eye out for that. And if there are any instruments that you're in particular need of that you don't have a decent library for, especially if it's an orchestral instrument, because I have access to a good amount of those types of things, leave a note in the comments, let me know what that is, and maybe I can fold that into the roadmap for upcoming instrument releases. All right, that's it. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and I will see you in 2026.